English Easy Podcast.
Hello, learners. Welcome back to English Easy Podcast, your partner to learning English. And welcome to today's deep dive. If you're listening, you probably already have a pretty solid foundation as an intermediate learner. You have a good vocabulary.
Yeah, you know the basics.
Exactly. But today, we're going way past those standard textbook definitions to, uncover that next level of natural fluency. Because today is all about two of the absolute smallest words in English. Just still and yet.
They look so innocent on paper, just a few letters each, right?
Yeah.
But they are incredibly sneaky.
Oh, they really are. Have you ever accidentally insulted a dinner guest with just one of these words? Because if you put them in the wrong place, it can completely destroy a polite conversation.
Definitely. I mean, misusing them doesn't just make your sentence grammatically incorrect. It can entirely change your perceived personality.
Wow, your whole personality.
Yeah, it can take you from sounding perfectly polite and patient to sounding incredibly demanding or annoyed in like 1 second, which obviously leads to some highly awkward misunderstandings.
Oh, right. And to make sure you never fall into that trap, we're going to break down the core mechanics of these words today. We'll explore how your tone of voice and your emotional state change absolutely everything.
We've got some high-stakes workplace and social scenarios to go through, too.
Yes, and we even have a hands-on pronunciation segment, plus an interactive quiz lined up at the end to test your skills. But before we get to the heavy emotional baggage these words carry, we need to understand the underlying architecture. Like, what is the fundamental difference between them?
Right. So we have to look at the cognitive linguistics, how these words actually operate in the brain. Let's tackle still first.
Okay, let's do it.
The golden rule for still is continuation. When you use it, you are signaling that an action began in the past and has not changed. It is continuing right into this exact present moment.
So it's ongoing.
Exactly. If I tell you I am still tired, I am making a point that the fatigue I felt, say, 2 hours ago is identical to the fatigue I feel right now. And mechanically, to convey this continuation, still is almost always placed right before the main verb. Or, immediately after a to-be verb.
I think visualizing this helps immensely. I always tell learners to imagine still as like a rubber band.
Oh, I like that.
Yeah, so you hook one end of that rubber band onto an event in the past, and you pull it, stretching it all the way into the present. The action hasn't broken. It's just, stretching across time.
That mental model is highly accurate, the stretch. Yet, on the other hand, operates on a completely different psychological principle.
Okay, how so?
Well, yet means an action has not happened up to this point, but, and this is the crucial distinction we fully expect it to happen, it is waiting for completion.
Okay, waiting for completion.
Right. And grammatically, it almost always sits at the very end of the sentence.
Wait, I want to pause on that placement rule for a second.
Okay.
Why does yet have to go at the end? Because with still, you just said we put it right next to the verb. Why do we force yet all the way to the finish line of the sentence?
It really comes down to creating tension. Placing yet at the end of a sentence creates this sense of unresolved anticipation in the listener's brain.
Oh, that makes sense.
Yeah, as they hear the sentence unfold like, I haven't finished, they're waiting for a resolution. Dropping yet at the very end perfectly mirrors the meaning of the word itself.
So the sentence literally makes them wait, just like the situation makes you wait.
Exactly. It's mostly used in negative sentences and questions, and it pairs beautifully with the present perfect tense, like, have you finished yet? Or I haven't finished yet.
Okay, I see the mechanical difference now. Still stretches the past into the present, and yet sits at the end of the sentence, just waiting for the future to arrive.
Beautifully put.
And, this mechanical difference might sound minor, but in a high-stakes environment, it is the difference between sounding perfectly polite and incredibly passive-aggressive.
Oh, absolutely.
If you're listening to this and thinking about your own workplace, imagine a Friday afternoon. Let's actually do a simulation.
Perfect. Set the scene for us.
Okay, it's Friday. There is an absolute emergency at your company. A critical server is down, or maybe a major client is just furious. You send an urgent text to a coworker at 6 p.m. asking for a file that will fix the problem.
Okay, high stress.
Very. It is now 9 p.m. 3 hours have passed. We're going to act out 2 coworkers discussing this missing file. I will be the stress manager, and you can be the coworker.
All right, I'm in character.
Okay. This client is losing their mind. Did you check on him? Is he still working on it?
I don't know. He hasn't replied yet.
And seen? That was great. Let's analyze what just happened there. I asked, is he still working on it?
Right, and your focus in that question was entirely on the ongoing process. You were asking if the action that started at 6 p.m., the act of working on the file, is continuing to stretch into the present moment at 9 p.m.
Because I'm trying to figure out if the effort is continuous.
Exactly. And my response shifted the focus entirely. I said, he hasn't replied yet.
Yeah, you didn't use still at all.
No, because my focus was on expectation, not the process. I expected him to reply to the message we sent at 6. Up to this current moment, that reply has not materialized.
Right.
So I put yet right at the end of that negative sentence to show that we are trapped in a state of waiting for an event that we firmly believe should occur.
It completely changes the underlying focus of the conversation. One person is asking about an ongoing effort, and the other person is pointing out a missing result.
Yeah.
But, real English isn't a math formula. It is human, and humans bring emotional baggage to every conversation. Moving a single word can shift your tone entirely.
Welcome to the danger zone. This is exactly where intermediate learners can accidentally offend native speakers without having any idea they crossed a line. Tone of voice transforms these words.
It really does. Let's use a very basic physical need to illustrate this. Hunger. If I say to you, I haven't eaten yet, how are you interpreting my emotional state?
I am interpreting that as a neutral, factual update. You're just giving me raw information. The event of eating hasn't happened up to now, but you plan to eat. There's no pressure on me.
But what if I drop my voice, look you right in the eye, and say, I am still hungry?
Oh, that immediately changes the dynamic. It carries the continuous, miserable weight of the situation.
Yeah, I'm not just giving you an update anymore.
Not at all. You are emphasizing that the uncomfortable state of being hungry is dragging on. You're signaling that the situation is unresolved and you are unhappy about it. You're probably hinting that I need to do something to fix it, honestly.
Exactly. And the emotional shift gets even more intense in negative sentences. Compare 2 statements about waiting for a phone call. First one, she hasn't called yet.
Very calm, neutral. The phone hasn't rung. You expect it to ring eventually, but there's no panic.
Right. Now compare it to this. She still hasn't called.
A totally different emotional frequency. By putting heavy emphasis on still, you introduce worry, disappointment, or deep annoyance.
Because I'm emphasizing the sheer length of the delay.
Yes. The wait is dragging on, and you are losing your patience.
Which is a massive tip for formal or social phone calls. If you are checking in on a process, you have to choose your words carefully. Let's go back to that dinner party I mentioned at the start of the deep dive.
Oh, the accidental insult.
Right. You are the host. If you approach a guest and ask, have you eaten yet? You're politely focusing on completion. You just want to know if they need to be directed to the buffet.
But if you walk up to a guest who is currently holding a plate and you ask, are you still eating?
Oh, depending on your tone, that could be disastrous.
It sounds incredibly judgmental. It communicates impatience. It basically implies that you are surprised it is taking them so long to finish their meal, and you wish they would just hurry up.
Are you still eating? We want to clear the table. That is a relationship-damaging sentence if you say it to the wrong person.
It really is.
Let's apply this to another social relationship scenario. Well, let's talk about the universal anxiety of modern dating, which is waiting for a text back.
The perfect laboratory for testing still in yet because the emotional stakes are just so high.
Imagine you went on a great date. You texted them afterwards saying, had a great time. Now, 2 hours go by, you were sitting with your friend, you check your screen, and you calmly say, he hasn't replied yet.
2 hours is a reasonable window. The expectation is there, the hope is there, it just hasn't happened. The yet at the end of the sentence shows that you are comfortably waiting for the resolution.
Right. Now, fast forward. It had been 24 hours, the screen is blank. You look at your friend and say, he still hasn't replied.
The emotional frustration is palpable. You can feel the resentment building. By using still in that negative sentence, you are proving that the word carries the heavy baggage of waiting too long.
It's a complaint at that point.
Exactly. It's no longer just an update. The continuation of the silence is actively bothering you.
Okay, I have to push back here for a second because I hear native speakers break these rules. I have definitely heard someone say something like, are you still not done yet? When they are really angry. Is that wrong? Or can I just mash them together if I want to show both continuous waiting and an expected result?
I am so glad you brought that up because native speakers do sometimes use that redundant phrasing when they are highly emotional. But for an intermediate learner, it is a very common double mistake that you should really avoid. You shouldn't mash them together in a simple sentence.
It seems efficient though. Why avoid it?
Because they serve conflicting grammatical purposes. They're pointing the sentence in two completely different directions.
Oh, I see.
Yeah, still focuses on continuity, the ongoing nature of the wait, yet focuses on expectation, the finish line. If you put them right next to each other, it scrambles the brain's processing of the timeline. It just sounds clumsy.
So you have to pick one.
Right. Choose one based on what you want the listener to focus on, the ongoing frustration or the expected result.
Fair point. Choose your weapon carefully. Well, understanding this emotional weight is great in theory, but now it's time to put your mouth and brain to work. We are transitioning into a hands-on interactive session just for you, the listener.
Because knowledge is only valuable when you actually apply it out loud.
Exactly. Let's do a special pronunciation segment. I want you to repeat these sentences out loud, wherever you are listening right now. We are going to focus entirely on the emotional tone. First, we're going to do the calm, factual update. Take a breath. Now say this out loud with a flat, neutral tone. She hasn't called yet.
Notice how the word yet just gently lands at the end of the sentence. It doesn't carry stress. It's soft. She hasn't called yet.
Now let's inject some real frustration. We want to show that this delay is highly annoying. We're going to put heavy, frustrated emphasis on the word still. Say it out loud with me. She still hasn't called.
You can physically feel the tension when you say it. She still hasn't called. You really lean into that word to show the emotion.
Let's make it personal now. I have a quick challenge for you.
Think about your own life right now. Construct two sentences in your head and then say them out loud. First, say one sentence about something you are still doing, something that started in the past and continues today. For example, I'm still living in my hometown, or I'm still learning English. Take a second and say yours out loud.
Anchoring the grammar to your actual reality makes it stick so much better.
Definitely. Now for the second part of the challenge, say one sentence out loud about something you haven't done yet, but you fully expect to do in the future. For example, I haven't started my business yet, or I haven't visited Europe yet. Go ahead, say it out loud.
Making the language belong to you is the real key to fluency. But now it is time for the true evaluation. We're going to do a rapid-fire pause-and-play quiz to test your understanding directly.
The stakes are high. Let's see how much has sunk in.
Here is how it works. We will read a common learner mistake. I will tell you to pause the audio. You need to say the correction out loud. Then unpause, and we will reveal the answer key with a simple explanation of why it works. Ready?
Question number 1. Here is the common mistake. I am still not finished my homework.
Pause the audio now and say the correction out loud.
And here is the answer key. The correct sentence is, I still haven't finished my homework.
Okay, let's break down why that is the answer. What's the underlying rule here?
Two crucial things are happening. First, when we talk about an action not being finished up to the present moment, we need to use the present perfect tense, the grammatical bridge between the past and the present.
So that means using have not finished.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Second, remember our mechanical rule about placement still goes before the main verb phrase, so it goes before haven't finished. You end up with, I still haven't finished my homework.
That makes perfect sense. Let's move to question number 2.
All right, here is the mistake.
Look.
Did you finish yet your work?
Pause the audio now and correct the sentence out loud.
The answer key is, have you finished your work yet?
Word order is a massive trap for intermediate learners.
Yeah.
Why is the original sentence so jarring to hear?
The biggest issue is the placement of yet. Remember the cognitive tension we talked about? Yet almost always belongs at the very end of the sentence. It waits at the finish line to resolve the anticipation.
Right, it can't go in the middle.
Exactly. We also swapped did you finish for have you finished because, again, yet loves to pair with the present perfect tense when asking about completion.
Have you finished your work yet? Sounds so much more natural. Okay, final question. Let's make it a tricky one.
This is a classic direct translation trap. Here's the mistake. She hasn't called me still.
Pause the audio and say your correction out loud.
There are actually two distinct ways to correct this for the answer key, depending entirely on the emotion you want to convey. You can either say, she still hasn't called me, or you can say, she hasn't called me yet.
This one is vital to understand. Let's unpack the explanation. Why do learners make this specific mistake?
This error usually happens when someone translates directly from their native language, where the equivalent word for still might naturally sit at the end of a negative sentence. But in English, you cannot structure it that way. You have to choose your emotional frequency. If you want to show frustration, put still before the negative. She still hasn't called me.
And if you want to be neutral,
Then use yet and put it at the end. She hasn't called me yet. But dropping still at the end of a negative sentence breaks the English rhythm completely.
It immediately signals that you are doing mental gymnastics, translating word for word in your head instead of feeling the natural flow of English, which is exactly what we're trying to fix today.
Exactly.
And hey, if you didn't get them all right, do not worry. That is the whole point of practicing out loud. Let's do a quick, easy-to-remember summary of the main points so you can review this material in your free time.
The core takeaways are pretty simple.
First, remember the visual of the rubber band. Still stretches the situation, it shows continuation, and it goes before the verb. Second, yet waits for the situation to resolve. It builds expectation, and it goes to the very end of the sentence.
And never forget the emotional danger zone. If you want to sound polite, calm, and neutral about a delay, especially on a formal phone call, use yet. But if you want to show emotion, surprise, or frustration about how long something is taking, lean heavily on still.
Keep practicing these concepts in your daily informal conversations with close friends. Try using still to stretch a story about something you are doing, or yet to show what you're waiting for. The more you use them, the more natural they will feel. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive.
It's been a pleasure to break this down with you.
Before we go, consider this. We've talked deeply about how yet carries an inherent expectation of completion. You're waiting for the finish line.
Right.
But cognitive psychologists suggest that simply adding yet to your own negative thoughts can literally rewire your brain for resilience. It is a concept called a growth mindset.
Oh, I love this concept.
Think about how you talk to yourself when you struggle with English. If you constantly tell yourself, I'm still making mistakes, you are stretching that feeling of inadequacy right into your present. It feels heavy.
Yeah, it focuses purely on the frustration.
But what happens if you change your internal dialogue to, I haven't mastered this yet? Notice how that changes everything. Not yet means the mastery is coming, you just haven't arrived at the finish line.
It leaves the future completely open.
Exactly. So as you go through your week, pay attention to your internal monologue. Are you trapping yourself with still or freeing yourself with yet? Something to think about. See you next time.